What happens when a man known for playing monsters, kings, and men with ice in their veins walks into a studio built on warmth, chatter, and daytime comfort, and decides not to soften a single edge? Before anyone settles into their seats, before the applause sign even flickers on, there's already something different in the air. You can feel it through the screen, like the pressure change before a storm. And before we go any further, if you love cinematic breakdowns of explosive celebrity moments, don't forget to subscribe to Stage View, hit that like button, and drop a comment right now, because what unfolds next is not the kind of television moment you forget. The studio lights rise slowly, bathing the familiar set of The View in its usual pastel calm. The couches sit just right. The mugs are lined up, steam curling lazily into the air. The audience claps on cue, a comfortable rhythm they've rehearsed 1,000 times. This is supposed to be safe territory, controlled, predictable, a place where tension gets teased but never truly bites. Ralph Fiennes steps out from backstage, and the rhythm stumbles. He's dressed simply, dark suit, no tie, crisp white shirt. Nothing flashy, nothing loud, and yet the room subtly recalibrates around him. He doesn't wave too eagerly. He doesn't grin for the cameras. He offers a polite nod, a faint smile that never reaches his eyes. Those eyes are alert, observant, almost weighing the room. Joy Behar leans forward slightly on the couch as he approaches. She's done this dance longer than most people in television. She's interviewed heads of state, Hollywood royalty, firebrands, and flameouts. She's known for her sharp humor, her unfiltered comments, her comfort in poking the bear just enough to get a reaction. She doesn't know yet that this bear isn't interested in being poked. The applause fades. The theme music dissolves. The red light on the main camera blinks on. And just like that, millions of living rooms are invited into the moment. Ralph Fiennes, Whoopi Goldberg says warmly, gesturing toward him. "It's so good to have you here." "Thank you," Ralph replies, his voice calm, measured, unmistakably English. There's no wasted energy in the words. Each syllable lands exactly where it's meant to. He takes his seat, folding his hands loosely in his lap. He doesn't fidget. He doesn't scan the audience for approval. He looks straight ahead, posture relaxed but grounded, like someone who knows precisely who he is and has nothing to prove. Joy smiles, tilting her head. "You know," she begins, already halfway into her thought, "every time you're on screen, people say the same thing, terrifying. Whether you're playing a villain or not, there's just something intimidating about you." The audience chuckles softly. It's a familiar kind of comment, half compliment, half jab. The kind meant to loosen things up. Ralph blinks once. "Is that so?" he asks. Joy laughs. "Oh, come on." Voldemort didn't exactly scream cuddly. More laughter. The camera cuts briefly to a few audience members nodding, smiling. This is going well, by the View standards. Banter. Safe humor. A predictable exchange. Ralph's lips curve into something that resembles a smile, but it's fleeting, almost reflexive. He inhales, then speaks again. "I think," he says carefully, "it's interesting how often actors are reduced to the shadows of characters they've played." The room stills just a fraction. Not enough to register as silence, but enough to feel different. Joy shrugs lightly. "Well, that's fame, right? You make an impression, people remember it." "Of course," Ralph replies. "But there's a difference between remembering a performance and projecting it onto the person." The audience quiets. Not completely, but the laughter has drained out of the moment like air from a punctured balloon. Whoopi watches him closely now, her expression neutral but attentive. Sunny Hostin glances sideways at Joy, sensing the shift. Even the cameraman tightens the frame, instinctively focusing on Ralph's face. Joy, ever the professional, pushes forward. "So you don't enjoy being known for those darker roles?" Ralph's gaze finally turns to her fully. And when it does, the temperature drops. "I didn't say that," he answers. His voice remains calm, but there's a steel beneath it now. "I said I don't enjoy being misunderstood." A murmur ripples through the audience. It's subtle, more felt than heard, but it's there. This isn't the breezy interview they expected. Joy leans back slightly, crossing one leg over the other. "Misunderstood how?" Ralph pauses. Not the kind of pause that fills space awkwardly, but the kind that commands it. He takes his time, eyes steady, as if choosing words not for diplomacy, but for precision. "When someone introduces my work as terrifying," he says, "it suggests a lack of curiosity, as though the only thing worth noting is fear, rather than complexity." The word complexity hangs in the air. Joy's smile tightens just a little. Well, it's a talk show, Ralph. We don't exactly have 3 hours to dissect Shakespeare. A few nervous laughs break out, but they don't carry far. Ralph nods slowly. No, he agrees. But words still matter. That's when it becomes clear. This isn't going to be smoothed over with humor. The audience senses it. You can see people shifting in their seats, leaning forward. Phones discreetly slide out of pockets despite the rules. Somewhere on social media, clips are already being queued up, captions half-written. Joy opens her mouth to respond, but Ralph continues, his tone unchanged, almost eerily composed. I've spent my life studying human behavior, he says. The light, the dark, and everything in between. When those efforts are flattened into a punchline, it's disappointing. Disappointing. Not angry. Not offended. Disappointed. The word lands heavier than any accusation. Joy blinks, clearly not expecting the conversation to pivot here. I didn't mean it as a punchline, she says quickly. It's just people feel things when they watch you. And that, Ralph replies without missing a beat, is the point of acting. A few audience members clap, uncertain at first, then louder as the tension becomes undeniable. The sound echoes strangely, like applause in the wrong key. Whoopi steps in, sensing the need to steady the ship. Ralph, you're here to talk about your new film. I am, he says, turning to her politely. And I will. But I won't pretend that framing doesn't shape perception. Joy exhales sharply, her comedian's instinct flaring. So what should I have said? Warm and fuzzy Ralph Fiennes. A ripple of laughter tries to break through again. It doesn't. Ralph tilts his head slightly, studying her. Not with anger, not with disdain, but with something colder. Analytical. Detached. You could have said, he offers, that I'm an actor who takes his craft seriously. Silence. Not dead air, but close enough that the control room is probably scrambling, fingers hovering over commercial cues. The camera cuts to Joy. For the first time, she looks genuinely unsettled. Not furious. Not defensive. Just caught off balance. Well, she says after a beat, forcing a smile. Aren't we serious today? Ralph's expression doesn't change. I always am, he replies. And just like that, the interview crosses an invisible line, from playful tension into something far more raw. The audience knows it. The hosts know it. And Ralph Fiennes, sitting there with his hands folded and his voice steady, knows it too. This is no longer about a movie. This is about control, perception, and what happens when someone refuses to perform the version of themselves television expects. And the ice in the room? It's only just beginning to spread. The silence doesn't last long, but it stretches just enough to feel dangerous. Joy Behar lets out a short laugh, the kind meant to release pressure, the kind she's used 1,000 times to regain control of a room. Okay, she says, waving a hand lightly. We get it. Serious actor. Point taken. But the tone doesn't land the way she wants it to. Not this time. Ralph Fiennes doesn't laugh with her. He doesn't nod. He doesn't rush to reassure her that everything's fine. Instead, he shifts slightly in his seat, crossing one ankle over the other, movements slow and deliberate. The body language of a man who is not backing down, and has no reason to. What the audience feels now isn't shock anymore. It's anticipation. Whoopi glances between them, reading the room like a veteran referee. Sunny's eyebrows knit together, her legal mind already clocking the implications of every word being exchanged live on air. The producers in the control room are no longer relaxed in their chairs. Someone leans closer to a monitor. Another reaches for a headset. Joy presses on. So, she says, lips pursed into a half smile, let's talk about this new film. You play what is it? A morally complicated man. There it is. The pivot. The attempt to steer the ship back to safer waters. Ralph inclines his head politely. Yes, a beat. But, he continues, since we're already discussing labels, perhaps this is a good moment to explore what that actually means. Joy blinks. Explore. Yes, Ralph says evenly. Rather than shorthand. The audience murmurs again. A low hum of interest ripples through the seats. This isn't combative shouting. It's worse, controlled, intellectual pressure. The kind that leaves nowhere to hide. Joy shifts in her seat. Ralph, this isn't a film school seminar. No, he agrees. It's a public conversation, which is precisely why it matters. The camera cuts to Whoopi, who tilts her head thoughtfully. She recognizes this type of guest. Not explosive. Not messy. Just immovable. Okay, Whoopi says, stepping carefully. So tell us what morally complicated means to you. Ralph turns to her, grateful for the genuine question. It means resisting the urge to simplify people into heroes and villains, he says. It means acknowledging contradiction, hypocrisy, fear, courage, often in the same moment. He pauses, then adds, almost casually, something we rarely allow public figures. Joy lets out a soft scoff before she can stop herself. Oh, come on. Public figures sign up for that. Ralph's eyes flick back to her instantly. Do they? He asks. The two words land sharply. Joy opens her mouth, then closes it again. The audience leans in. Even the clapping sign remains dark, forgotten. You chose this life, Joy says finally. Fame, scrutiny, opinions, it's part of the deal. Ralph nods slowly. Scrutiny, yes. Reduction, no. The distinction slices cleanly through the conversation. I don't object to being questioned, he continues. I object to being flattened. Flattened. Joy laughs again, but this time it's brittle. You're really taking this personally. No, Ralph replies. I'm taking it seriously. That line hits harder than anything said so far. A woman in the audience audibly whispers, "Oh wow." Someone else claps once before stopping themselves, unsure if it's appropriate. The tension has become electric, palpable even through a screen. Sunny finally speaks up. Can I jump in here? Ralph turns to her. Of course. Sunny folds her hands together. Do you think the media has a responsibility to present artists differently than politicians or other public figures? Ralph considers this, eyes briefly lifting as if sorting through decades of experience. I think the media has a responsibility to be curious, he says. About everyone. Joy tilts her head. Curiosity doesn't get ratings. Ralph looks at her again, really looks at her, and when he speaks, his voice is quieter, colder. Then perhaps ratings have become the enemy of understanding. The studio reacts all at once. Gasps. Scattered applause. A sharp intake of breath from somewhere off camera. This isn't banter anymore. This is a critique of the machine, delivered from inside it, live, with no commercial break to blunt the impact. Joy's smile disappears entirely now. Are you accusing us of not being curious? I'm suggesting, Ralph says unhurried. That familiarity can breed laziness. There it is. The word laziness hangs heavy, unmistakable. Joy straightens her back. I've been doing this for decades. I'm aware, Ralph replies, which is why it surprises me. The audience erupts, not fully, not chaotically, but enough that the sound swells beyond polite applause. The control room can't ignore it now. Someone gestures frantically at a clock. Whoopi raises a hand. All right, she says, half smiling, half serious. Let's take a breath. But Ralph isn't finished, and Joy knows it. This isn't about you personally, Ralph adds, almost gently. It's about a culture that rewards quick impressions over thoughtful engagement. Joy laughs sharply. You're really turning this into a lecture. Ralph meets her gaze without blinking. Only because no one interrupted me. That gets a reaction. A big one. The audience laughs, real laughter this time, but it's edged with disbelief. Even Whoopi chuckles despite herself. Joy, however, does not. You think we interrupt too much? Joy asks. I think, Ralph says carefully, that silence makes people uncomfortable. Joy smirks. Television hates silence. And yet, Ralph replies, here we are. Another wave of applause crashes through the studio. This time it's louder. Uncontrolled. The producers let it run, knowing there's no reining this in without breaking the spell. Joy exhales, shaking her head. You know what, Ralph? You're intense. Ralph smiles faintly for the first time, a thin, knowing smile. So I've been told. The irony doesn't escape anyone. Whoopi glances toward the camera. We're going to take a quick break. The words feel like a lifeline. As the theme music swells and the cameras pull back, the audience buzzes with conversation. People turn to each other, eyes wide, whispering urgently. Phones are out now, rules forgotten. Clips are being recorded. Tweets are being typed. Headlines are already forming in real time. Ralph sits calmly through it all, sipping water, posture unchanged. Joy stares down at her notes, jaw tight. No one speaks to each other during the break. Not really. When the cameras come back on, the atmosphere hasn't reset. It's crystallized. And everyone knows. Whatever happens next, this is already one of those moments that daytime television never quite lives down. The red light snaps back on. There's no reset. No gentle reentry. The moment the cameras return, the tension is right where it was left, sharp, polished, and humming beneath the surface like a live wire. The audience applause comes late and uneven, as if people aren't quite sure whether clapping is appropriate anymore. Joy Behar lifts her mug, takes a sip, then sets it down with a little more force than necessary. "All right," she says, forcing brightness into her voice. "We're back with Ralph Fiennes." Ralph inclines his head in acknowledgement. Nothing more. Whoopi watches them both, alert now in a way she wasn't earlier. This isn't just television anymore. It's a power struggle unfolding in real time. And power, once challenged, doesn't like to be ignored. Joy clears her throat. Some might say you're being a bit harsh." Ralph turns toward her slowly. "Harsh?" "Yes," Joy continues. "This is a daytime talk show. People tune in for conversation, not confrontation." Ralph's gaze doesn't waver. "Confrontation requires hostility," he replies. "I haven't raised my voice. I haven't insulted anyone." A pause. "I've simply refused to be simplified." The audience reacts again, this time with a low, approving rumble. Someone claps. Someone else shushes them. The studio feels split down the middle, and everyone can feel it. Joy exhales through her nose. "You are insulting the format." "I'm questioning it," Ralph corrects. "There's a difference." Sunny leans forward, sensing the moment slipping towards something volatile. "Ralph, do you feel misunderstood often?" He considers this. "Not often," he says, "but memorably." Joy tilts her head. "So why today?" Ralph's eyes flick briefly toward the audience, then back to Joy. When he speaks, his voice drops just slightly, still calm, but more intimate, more dangerous. "Because today," he says, "I was introduced as a feeling rather than a person." A hush falls over the studio. Joy scoffs. "Oh, come on. That's dramatic." Ralph's jaw tightens, not in anger, but in resolve. "Drama is my profession," he says. "But this isn't that." He leans forward for the first time, elbows resting lightly on his knees. The shift is subtle, but it changes everything. He's no longer merely responding. He's engaging. "When you say someone is terrifying," he continues, "you invite the audience to stop listening, to assume they already understand." Joy's voice sharpens. "Or maybe we're just describing an impact." "Impact without context," Ralph replies, "is noise." The word echoes. Joy laughs again, but there's no humor in it now. "You really don't like being challenged, do you?" Ralph looks genuinely surprised by the question. "On the contrary," he says, "I enjoy challenge. I don't enjoy caricature." The audience audibly reacts, oohs, scattered claps, a collective intake of breath. This is the kind of line people replay, the kind that gets quoted. Joy shifts again, uncrossing and recrossing her legs. "So what do you want from us?" Ralph doesn't hesitate. "Attention." The simplicity of the answer disarms the room. "Not praise," he adds. "Not reverence. Just attention. Real attention." Whoopi nods slowly, as if something has clicked. "That's fair," she says. Joy glances at her, then back at Ralph. "You're asking a lot from morning television." Ralph smiles faintly. "I'm asking the same thing I ask of myself." Silence stretches again, but this time it's thoughtful. Sunny breaks it gently. "Do you think moments like this help or hurt conversations between artists and the media?" Ralph considers. "They help," he says, "if people are willing to be uncomfortable." Joy raises an eyebrow. "And if they're not?" Ralph meets her gaze. Then nothing changes. That lands hard. The audience applauds, louder now, no longer tentative. This isn't just about Ralph Fiennes anymore. It's about something bigger, about how people are seen, labeled, consumed. Joy lets out a long breath, shaking her head. You're not exactly playing the game." Ralph's smile returns, sharper this time. "I've never been very good at games." Whoopi laughs despite herself. "That's obvious." Joy tries one last angle. "Do you think you're better than this show?" The question hangs in the air, raw, unfiltered. A collective gasp ripples through the audience. Ralph doesn't react immediately. He sits back, folds his hands again, and takes a breath. When he speaks, his voice is steady, almost gentle. "No," he says. "I think I'm capable of more than what you expected from me." The room erupts. Applause surges, no longer controlled. People stand halfway out of their seats. Someone whistles. The clapping sign flickers on "too late." It's already happening. Joy's expression freezes for a moment before she masks it with a tight smile. "Well," she says, "you've certainly made an impression." Ralph nods. "That wasn't my intention." "Sure it was," Joy snaps lightly. Ralph's eyes soften just a fraction. "No," he says. My intention was honesty. The difference is unmistakable. The director's voice crackles faintly through an earpiece somewhere. They're running long. Way too long. But cutting this now would be television malpractice. Whoopi glances at the camera. We're almost out of time. Joy looks relieved and irritated at the same time. Ralph remains composed, as if time has never applied to him. As the segment begins to wind down, the audience buzzes again, louder than before. People are already imagining the headlines, the clips, the debates that will rage online by the afternoon. Joy offers a final line, stiff but professional. Well, Ralph Fiennes, everyone. Ralph turns slightly toward her. Thank you for having me. The words are polite, formal, but there's something unresolved hanging between them, thick and unmistakable. And as the cameras pull back, one truth becomes clear. Whatever was supposed to happen in this interview never stood a chance. Because the real confrontation didn't explode. It froze. And the fallout hasn't even begun. The applause fades, but the moment doesn't. Even as the cameras cut to the next segment, the studio feels altered. Like furniture has been rearranged while no one was looking. Crew members move a little faster now. Voices are quieter. There's an unspoken awareness that something has just happened that can't be undone or reframed. Ralph Fiennes stands when the director signals the wrap. He buttons his jacket calmly, nods once to Whoopi, once to Sunny. When his eyes meet Joy's, there's no triumph in them. No smugness. Just distance. Joy offers a tight smile. Good luck with the film. Thank you, Ralph replies. Two professionals. Polite. Finished. And yet the air between them is brittle, like glass after a hard frost. As Ralph walks off stage, a few audience members break the rules and clap anyway. Softly at first, then louder. One woman mouths thank you as he passes. Ralph acknowledges it with the faintest incline of his head, then disappears behind the curtain. The studio exhales. Joy sits back down, shaking her head slightly as if trying to physically dislodge the moment from her thoughts. Whoopi leans over and murmurs something off-mic. Sunny glances toward the control room, already anticipating the flood of reaction that's about to hit. Because outside that studio, the reaction has already begun. Within minutes, clips flood social media. Not the whole interview, never the whole thing. Just fragments. Carefully chosen lines. Ralph's voice calm and unwavering. Joy's expressions frozen mid-reaction. Captions flash across screens. Ralph Fiennes shuts down the view. Joy Behar caught off guard on live TV. Cold. Calm. Devastating. The comments explode. Some viewers praise him as brilliant, articulate, fearless. Finally, someone said it. This is what respect looks like. Others bristle, calling him arrogant, condescending, overly serious. It's a talk show, not a philosophy class. Lighten up. And then there are the debates, the long threads, the stitched videos, the reaction channels pausing on every micro-expression like it's courtroom evidence. Was he right? Was she defensive? Was it a misunderstanding or a power struggle? By mid-afternoon, entertainment sites pick it up. Headlines soften and sharpen by turns, depending on the outlet. Awkward moment on The View. Ralph Fiennes challenges daytime TV norms. A chilly exchange leaves audience stunned. Clips rack up millions of views in hours. Backstage at The View, the producers hold a quiet meeting. No shouting. No panic. Just careful words. This wasn't a meltdown. It wasn't a scandal. It was something trickier. An intellectual clash that doesn't fit neatly into outrage culture, but fuels it anyway. Joy, later that evening, addresses it with friends the way only a veteran can. She shrugs it off publicly. Jokes about it. Guess he wasn't in a warm and fuzzy mood. Laughter follows, but it doesn't quite erase the edge. Ralph, meanwhile, says nothing. No tweets. No statements. No clarification interview. The silence only amplifies the moment. Fans notice. Critics notice. Silence becomes its own commentary. A day later, a respected film critic writes a piece praising Ralph's restraint, calling it one of the rare moments where an actor refuses to perform likability. Another columnist fires back, accusing him of elitism, of talking down to daytime audiences. The comment sections become battlegrounds. What's fascinating isn't just the argument, it's what people project onto it. Some see a stand against media oversimplification. Others see a celebrity bristling at a joke. Some see gender dynamics. Others see generational friction. Everyone sees something different. And that's the irony. The very thing Ralph spoke about, reduction versus curiosity, is now playing out at scale. Weeks later, the clip still circulates. It resurfaces in montages about guests who broke the format. It's dissected in acting classes, quoted in think pieces about modern media. A moment frozen in amber, replayed endlessly. But inside that moment, inside the studio, what made it unforgettable wasn't anger or shouting. It was restraint. Ralph never raised his voice. Joy never lost hers. No one stormed off. Instead, the confrontation unfolded like ice forming, slow, deliberate, impossible to ignore. And maybe that's why it lingers. Because it asks an uncomfortable question. What happens when someone refuses to be smaller than the space they're given? The audience that day didn't leave buzzing because they witnessed a fight. They left buzzing because they witnessed control. And control, quiet, unyielding control, can be far more unsettling than chaos. Now it's your turn. Did Ralph Fiennes cross a line, or did he draw one? Was Joy Behar doing her job, or did she underestimate her guest? Was this an awkward misunderstanding, or a necessary moment of truth? Drop your opinion in the comments. Let us know whose side you're on and why. And if you want more explosive, cinematic breakdowns of the moments television never quite plans for, make sure you subscribe to Stage View. Like the video, share it with someone who loves dissecting these unforgettable clashes, and stay tuned, because the next story might be even colder.